Drama. All My Sons, a play in 3 acts. By Arthur Miller. Characters: Joe Keller, father. Kate Keller, mother. Larry Keller, commits suicide. Chris Keller, young son. Ann Deaver, Chris's girlfriend. George Deaver, Ann's brother. Dr. Jim Bayliss, Keller's neighbor. Sue Bayliss, Jim's wife. Frank Luby, Lydia's husband. Lydia Luby, Frank's wife. Bert, Frank's son. Summary. All My Sons, a play in 3 acts written by Arthur Miller, is a gripping drama that delves into themes of morality, responsibility, and the consequences of past actions. Set in post-World War II America, the play revolves around the Keller family and their dark secrets. Act 1 introduces the Keller family, Joe, the patriarch and owner of a manufacturing company, his wife, Kate, and their surviving son, Chris. Their other son, Larry, went missing during the war and is presumed dead. The Kellers live in a seemingly idyllic neighborhood, but underlying tensions become apparent when Ann Deaver, Larry's former girlfriend, returns to town. Chris and Ann's budding romance sparks conflicts, as Kate clings to the hope that Larry is still alive and will return. The play's central conflict revolves around Joe's manufacturing business. He was accused of selling defective airplane parts to the military, which caused the death of 21 pilots during the war. His partner, Steve Deaver, Ann's father, took the fall and is in prison for the crime. Joe maintains his innocence, claiming he was not aware of the faulty parts. However, Chris suspects his father's involvement, causing further strain in the family dynamics. In Act 2, tensions escalate as Ann's brother, George, arrives to visit the Kellers. George is bitter about his father's imprisonment and is determined to uncover the truth. He reveals that Joe knew about the faulty parts and allowed his partner to take the blame to protect himself and the business. Chris, devastated by this revelation, confronts his father, demanding he take responsibility for his actions. Joe, however, is unyielding and insists he did it for the family's well-being. Kate, unwilling to accept the truth, clings to the hope that Larry is alive and believes that if Joe is held accountable for the crime, it will mean Larry's death. The conflict intensifies, straining relationships further and shattering the illusion of the perfect American dream. In Act 3, the situation reaches a breaking point. Kate finally acknowledges the truth about Joe's guilt but continues to defend him, highlighting the complexity of familial loyalty and the lengths people go to protect their own. Chris, heartbroken and disillusioned, decides to leave home with Ann, leaving behind the tainted legacy of the Keller family. Tragically, the truth about Larry's fate is revealed, confirming that he died in the war. Kate, unable to bear the weight of her husband's crimes and the loss of her son, becomes emotionally unstable. The play concludes with Joe's guilt overpowering him, leading him to take his own life. All My Sons is a poignant exploration of human nature, ethics, and the consequences of choices made during times of crisis. Through the Keller family's story, Arthur Miller prompts the audience to reflect on the importance of honesty, the destructiveness of denial, and the enduring impact of the past on the present. The play serves as a cautionary tale, reminding us that buried secrets can never truly stay hidden, and that the pursuit of the American dream should not come at the expense of morality and responsibility. Activities. Multiple choice questions. Tick, square root, the correct answer. 1. Skane was used in the theatre. A. Elizabeth. B. Greek. C. Modern British. D. Modern American. 2. The play All My Sons was written in CE. A. 1943. B. 1944. C. 1945. D. 1946. 3. The play All My Sons is set after the A. First World. B. Second World. C. US Vietnam. D. US Mexico. 4. The play All My Sons takes place in A. November. C. September. B. October. D. August. 5 is known as the astrologer in the play? A. Joe Keller, B. George Deaver, C. Frank Luby, D. Jim Bayliss. 6. Larry was born in A. November, B. August, C. June, D. February. 7. Is supposed to have been killed in the Second World War? A. Chris Keller, B. Larry Keller, C. Sue Bayliss, D. Ann Deaver. 8. Joe Keller became rich by doing business. A. Cylinder, B. Gunpowder, C. Oil, D. Food and beverage. 9. What does George Deaver do to make a living? A. Medicine, B. Law, C. Research, D. Construction. 10. How many planes got crashed because of the parts supplied from Keller's factory? A. 36, B. 21, C. 25, D. 14. Extra MCQs. 1. What is the central theme of All My Sons? A. Romance and family dynamics, B. Post-war America, C. Morality, responsibility, and consequences, D. The pursuit of the American dream. 2. Who is the protagonist of the play? A. Chris Keller, B. Joe Keller, C. Larry Keller, D. Kate Keller. 3. What event serves as the backdrop for the play's setting? A. The Great Depression, B. World War I, C. World War II, D. The Civil Rights Movement. 4. Why is Larry Keller missing? A. He ran away from home, B. He died in the war, C. He joined the military, D. He went on a secret mission. 5. What is the name of Larry Keller's former girlfriend who returns to town? A. Mary, B. Ann Deaver, C. Kate, D. George. 6. What is Joe Keller accused of in the play? A. Selling defective airplane parts, B. Stealing money from the company, C. Abandoning his family, D. Being involved in espionage. 7. Who is in prison for the crime related to the defective airplane parts? A. Joe Keller, B. Chris Keller, C. Steve Deaver, D. George Deaver. 8. What is the main reason behind the conflict between Chris and Joe Keller? A. Chris wants to take over the family business, B. Chris suspects Joe's involvement in the airplane parts scandal, C. Chris wants to marry Ann Deaver, D. Chris wants to move away from the neighborhood. 9. Why does Kate Keller refuse to believe the truth about Joe's involvement in the scandal? A. She thinks Larry is still alive, B. She wants to protect her husband, C. She believes Chris is lying, D. She is unaware of the accusations. 10. How does the play conclude? A. Joe Keller confesses his guilt and goes to prison, B. Chris and Ann get married and live happily ever after, C. Larry Keller returns home alive, D. Joe Keller takes his own life. 11. What is the setting of Act I in All My Sons? A. A bustling city, B. A suburban neighborhood after World War II, C. A rural farm, D. A military base. 12. Who is the patriarch of the Keller family? A. Larry Keller, B. Chris Keller, C. Joe Keller, D. Steve Deaver. 13. What happened to Larry Keller during the war? A. He went missing, B. He returned home safely, C. He became a war hero, D. He joined the military. 14. What is the main point of conflict between Chris and Kate Keller in Act I? A. Chris's relationship with Andiva. B. Chris's decision to work with his father. C. Chris's desire to move away from the neighborhood. D. Chris's belief in Larry's return. 15. What is the dark secret that haunts the Keller family? A. Joe's involvement in a manufacturing business. B. Kate's stubbornness about Larry's return. C. Steve Deaver's imprisonment. D. Faulty airplane parts sold to the military. 16. Who is blamed for selling faulty airplane parts to the military, resulting in the deaths of 21 pilots? A. Joe Keller. B. Steve Deaver. C. Chris Keller. D. George Deaver. 17. How does Joe Keller react to the accusations regarding the faulty airplane parts? A. He confesses his guilt. B. He blames Chris for the accusations. C. He maintains his innocence and blames Steve Deaver. D. He confronts Ann and Chris about their relationship. 18. Why does the presence of Andiva create tension within the Keller family? A. She is Larry's former girlfriend. B. She is a successful businesswoman. C. She is a military officer. D. She is Joe's secret partner. 19. What is the state of Joe and Chris's relationship in Act 1? A. They are close and supportive of each other. B. They are distant and estranged. C. They have a loving father-son bond. D. They are business partners. 20. How does Act 1 set the stage for the subsequent acts of the play? A. It resolves all conflicts within the family. B. It introduces new characters. C. It reveals George's knowledge of the truth. D. It ends on a happy note. 21. What major announcement do Chris and Ann make at the beginning of Act 2? A. They are moving away from the neighborhood. B. They are expecting a baby. C. They are getting married. D. They are opening a new business. 22. What is Kate Keller's reaction to Chris and Ann's announcement? A. She is overjoyed and supportive. B. She is indifferent. C. She is devastated and opposed to the idea. D. She is relieved. 23. Who arrives at the Keller home to confront the family about Steve Deaver's imprisonment? A. Larry Keller. B. George Deaver. C. Ann Deaver. D. Chris Keller. 24. What does George Deaver accuse Joe Keller of in Act 2? A. Stealing money from the business. B. Cheating on his wife. C. Selling faulty airplane parts to the military. D. Hiding Larry's whereabouts. 25. Why is Kate Keller emotionally distressed throughout Act 2? A. She is suffering from a serious illness. B. She cannot accept Chris and Ann's marriage plans. C. She believes Larry will return. D. She is angry at George Deaver. 26. What does the cutting down of Larry's memorial tree symbolize at the end of Act 2? A. The family's love for nature. B. The family's optimism. C. The family's deteriorating hopes. D. The family's commitment to the community. 27. How does Joe Keller respond to the accusations made by George Deaver? A. He confesses to the crime. B. He denies any knowledge of the incident. C. He blames Kate for the incident. D. He accuses George of lying. 28. What central theme becomes increasingly evident in Act 2 as Kate struggles to confront the truth? A. Family loyalty. B. The consequences of denial. C. The importance of love. D. The pursuit of success. 29. Why is Chris Keller torn between his love for Ann and his loyalty to his family? A. He is secretly in love with Kate. B. He believes Ann is responsible for the family's problems. C. He is uncertain about his feelings for Ann. D. He is concerned about his family's reaction to their relationship. 30. How does Act 2 set the stage for the events that will unfold in Act 3? A. It resolves all conflicts within the family. B. It ends on a happy note with Chris and Ann's wedding. C. It reveals the truth about Larry's whereabouts. D. It leaves the characters at a breaking point with unresolved conflicts. 31. In Act 3 of All My Sons, what prompts Kate Keller to finally acknowledge the truth about Joe's involvement in the defective airplane parts incident? A. Anne's persuasion. B. Confrontation with George Deaver. C. A letter from Larry. D. A confession from Joe. 32. 32. How does Chris Keller react to the revelation of his father's guilt in Act 3? A. He forgives Joe immediately. B. He feels betrayed and enraged. C. He takes responsibility for Joe's actions. D. He denies the truth. 33. What isn't Eva torn between in Act 3? A. Her loyalty to Chris and her love for George. B. Her desire to marry Chris and her loyalty to her father. C. Her desire for revenge and her sympathy for Joe. D. Her desire to move away and her commitment to the Keller family. 34. What does George Deaver seek when he arrives at the Keller home in Act 3? A. A job opportunity from Joe. B. Justice for his father's imprisonment. C. A reconciliation with Chris. D. Information about Larry's whereabouts. 35. In Act 3, how does George expose Joe's guilt? A. He produces a confession letter from Joe. B. He presents evidence of Joe's knowledge about the defective parts. C. He threatens Joe with physical violence. D. He reveals that Larry is still alive. 36. What is the final fate of Joe Keller in Act 3? A. He is arrested by the police. B. He confesses and accepts responsibility. C. He takes his own life. D. He escapes town to avoid punishment. 37. What theme is most prominently explored in Act 3 of the play? A. Family loyalty. B. The consequences of moral ambiguity. C. The pursuit of justice. D. The power of forgiveness. 38. How does the play, All My Sons, conclude in Act 3? A. With Anne and Chris's wedding. B. With Joe's arrest for his crimes. C. Tragically, with Joe taking his own life. D. With a reconciliation between the Keller and Deaver families. 39. What is the central message or lesson conveyed through Act 3 of the play? A. The importance of keeping secrets. B. The value of forgiveness and redemption. C. The destructiveness of denial and moral ambiguity. D. The inevitability of tragedy in life. 40. How does Act 3 impact the relationships and sense of self of the characters in the play? A. It brings the characters closer together. B. It reinforces their denial of the past. C. It leaves them forever changed by the revelations. D. It leads to a happy and peaceful resolution. B. Short questions. Act 1. Summary. In Act 1 of All My Sons, by Arthur Miller, the play introduces the Keller family, living in a peaceful suburban neighborhood after World War II. Joe Keller, the patriarch, runs a successful manufacturing company. His wife, Kate, eagerly awaits the return of their son, Larry, who went missing during the war. Their other son, Chris, survived the war and now works with his father. The family gathers to celebrate the day when Larry is officially declared dead, despite Kate's stubborn belief that he will return. Chris, however, has fallen in love with Anne Deaver, Larry's former girlfriend, who visits the Kellers. This creates tension between Chris and Kate, as the latter clings to the hope that Larry is still alive. The play's underlying conflict revolves around Joe's manufacturing business. It is revealed that Joe's partner, Steve Deaver, is in prison for selling faulty airplane parts to the military during the war, which resulted in the deaths of 21 pilots. Joe claims he was not aware of the defect and places the blame solely on Steve. Chris is skeptical and believes there is more to the story. As the act progresses, it becomes clear that Anne and Chris's relationship is met with disapproval by both Joe and Kate. The presence of Anne, the daughter of the imprisoned partner, serves as a constant reminder of the dark secret that shadows the Keller family. Throughout Act Act 1, there are subtle hints of underlying tensions within the family, particularly between Joe and Chris. Chris is conflicted about his father's success, which he sees as built on the suffering of others. Meanwhile, Joe appears guilty, although he outwardly maintains his innocence. The act ends with a phone call from Anne's brother, George, who is expected to visit the Kellers in the next act. It is revealed that George knows the truth about Joe's involvement in the faulty parts incident and is deeply resentful of the situation. This sets the stage for the intensification of conflicts and the unraveling of secrets in the subsequent acts. 1. Describe the realistic elements in the setting of the play. In All My Sons, Arthur Miller creates a setting that is deeply rooted in realism, capturing the essence of post-World War II America. The play's realistic elements contribute to the authenticity of the story and make the characters' struggles and conflicts more relatable to the audience. Some of the prominent realistic elements in the setting include: A. Suburban neighborhood. The play is set in a typical suburban neighborhood, reflecting the post-war housing boom and the growth of the American middle class. The Kellers' home, with its white picket fence and manicured lawn, represents the American dream of that era, where families aspired to achieve success and prosperity in a peaceful neighborhood. B. Family home. The action takes place in the Keller family home, a familiar and intimate setting for domestic dramas. The living room and backyard serve as central spaces for the characters to interact and engage in conversations that reveal their emotions and conflicts. C. Time period. The play is firmly situated in the late 1940s, a time when the scars of World War II were fresh, and the country was transitioning into an era of economic growth and recovery. The war's aftermath and its impact on the characters' lives are evident in the storyline and their emotional struggles. D. The war's influence. The war has a significant influence on the characters' backgrounds and relationships. Larry's disappearance during the war and the unresolved grief of his parents serve as a constant presence throughout the play, shaping their actions and decisions. E. Economic realities. The play explores the economic realities of the time, particularly through Joe Keller's manufacturing business. The pursuit of profit and the drive for success are shown as essential aspects of the American capitalist society, but they are also portrayed as having potential ethical implications. F. Social expectations. The characters' behaviors and interactions reflect the societal norms and expectations of the time. Family loyalty, respect for authority figures like fathers, and adherence to traditional gender roles are all present in the play. G. Moral dilemmas. The play raises ethical and moral dilemmas that were relevant during that period and remain relevant today. It explores themes of responsibility, accountability, and the consequences of one's actions. H. Conversations and language. The characters' dialogue and language are naturalistic, mirroring the way people spoke in that era. The conversations reveal the characters' attitudes, emotions, and hidden motivations, making them more believable and relatable to the audience. Overall, the realistic elements in the setting of All My Sons create a world that the audience can easily recognize and connect with, allowing them to engage deeply with the play's themes and the complexities of the characters' lives. 2. After reading Act 1, what information did you get about the life and career of Joe Keller? From Act 1 of All My Sons, several key pieces of information are revealed about the life and career of Joe Keller. A. Business owner. Joe Keller is the owner of a successful manufacturing company. The business is involved in producing machine parts and supplies for the military during World War II, which has likely contributed to his family's prosperity and comfortable lifestyle. B. War profiteer. The play suggests that Joe Keller profited from the war effort, as his business provided parts for military equipment. This indicates that he may have amassed wealth during the war, which was a common phenomenon for some business owners during that time. C. The Diva incident. Joe was involved in a major scandal during the war related to the manufacturing of defective airplane parts. These faulty parts led to the deaths of 21 pilots, and Joe's partner, Steve Diva, father of Diva, took the blame for the incident. Steve was subsequently imprisoned, while Joe managed to escape punishment. D. Denial of responsibility. Throughout Act 1, Joe denies any responsibility for the defective parts and places the entire blame on his former partner, Steve. He maintains that he was not aware of the faulty shipment and asserts that he is innocent of any wrongdoing. E. Family man. Joe Keller is depicted as a family-oriented man who cares deeply for his wife, Kate, and their surviving son, Chris. His love for his family is evident in the way he tries to shield them from the truth about the diva incident, and protect them from any further emotional distress. F. Ambitions for Chris. Joe has high hopes for his son Chris and wants him to succeed in life. He encourages Chris to marry and build a life, envisioning a prosperous future for his son. However, Chris's own moral compass begins to clash with Joe's ambitions as the play unfolds. G. Legacy and reputation. Joe is concerned about maintaining his reputation and protecting the legacy of his business. He wants to be seen as an upstanding citizen and a successful businessman, which becomes a driving force behind his actions throughout the play. These aspects of Joe Keller's life and career create a complex and morally ambiguous character. The information revealed in Act I sets the stage for the conflicts and revelations that will unfold in the subsequent acts, as the truth about the diva incident and its implications come to light. 3. What are the 3 things the playwright relates with the newspaper? In All My Sons, the playwright, Arthur Miller, uses the newspaper as a significant motif to convey 3 important aspects related to the characters and the play's themes. A. Larry Keller's memorial. The newspaper is the source of the news about Larry Keller's memorial. As the play opens, the newspaper is delivered, and it is revealed that the day marks the official declaration of Larry's death, as he had been missing in action during World War II. The newspaper serves as a symbol of the past and the unresolved grief that still haunts the Keller family. Larry's disappearance and presumed death are central to the play's plot and impact the characters' emotions and decisions throughout the story. B. Joe Keller's business. The newspaper also acts as a reminder of Joe Keller's business and its role in the faulty airplane parts incident. The news articles mentioned in the play reveal that the case is still a topic of public interest and scrutiny. Joe's manufacturing company was involved in producing defective parts during the war, which resulted in the deaths of American pilots. The newspaper represents the outside world's awareness of this scandal and its impact on the Keller family's reputation and relationships. C. The outside world. The newspaper connects the characters to the outside world and the events beyond their immediate surroundings. It brings news from the wider community, including information about the war, business affairs, and the public's perception of Joe Keller's actions. This connection to the larger world emphasizes that the characters' personal struggles and decisions are not isolated, they have broader consequences and implications. By incorporating the newspaper motif into the play, Arthur Miller effectively weaves together the characters' personal lives, the lingering effects of the war, and the moral dilemmas arising from Joe Keller's past actions. The newspaper serves as a narrative device that both informs the audience about crucial background information, and symbolizes the inescapable grip of the past on the present. 4. What is Kate Keller's, mother's, attitude towards her missing son Larry? Kate Keller's attitude towards her missing son Larry is one of unwavering hope and denial. Throughout the play, All My Sons, by Arthur Miller, Kate clings to the belief that Larry is still alive, despite overwhelming evidence suggesting otherwise. Kate's attitude is deeply rooted in her motherly love and her inability to accept the painful truth of her son's death. She refuses to acknowledge Larry's probable demise, even though 3 years have passed since he went missing during World War II. Kate cannot bear the thought of her son being gone, and she desperately clings to the possibility that he will return someday. Several factors contribute to Kate's persistent hope. A. Intuition. Kate believes that she has a special intuition or feeling about her son's fate. She often mentions that she can sense when someone is alive or dead, and she insists that she can still feel Larry's presence. B. The apple tree incident. Kate holds on to a symbolic event involving a fallen apple tree in their yard. She interprets this incident as a sign that Larry is still alive, and the tree will bloom again when he returns. This belief further reinforces her hope. C. Protecting Joe. Kate's denial of Larry's death is also linked to her desire to protect her husband, Joe Keller. She worries that if Larry is declared dead, Joe's guilt and involvement in the defective parts incident will be revealed, leading to further distress and consequences for the family. D. Avoiding grief. Kate's denial shields her from facing the painful reality of her son's death. She avoids grieving, as the acknowledgement of Larry's death would shatter the illusion that he might still be alive. Kate's attitude towards Larry influences her interactions with other characters, particularly Chris, her surviving son. She discourages Chris's relationship with Endeavor, Larry's former girlfriend, as she believes it would be a betrayal to Larry's memory. Her denial also causes tension with Chris, who struggles with the burden of his mother's hope and the moral dilemmas surrounding his father's actions. Throughout the play, Kate's emotional turmoil and her refusal to accept reality contribute to the central conflicts and themes of the story, making her a complex and poignant character. Her attitude towards Larry is a significant aspect of her portrayal as a grieving mother torn between hope and denial. 5. Describe the relationship between Dr. Jim Bayliss and his wife Sue Bayliss. In All My Sons, the relationship between Dr. Jim Bayliss and his wife Sue Bayliss is portrayed as strained and filled with unresolved tensions. Dr. Bayliss is a physician, and Sue is his wife. Their marriage is explored in the play, though it is not the central focus like the Keller family's dynamics. The key aspects of their relationship are as follows. A. Lack of connection. The play hints at a lack of emotional connection between Jim and Sue. They seem to have grown distant from each other over time, and there is a lack of intimacy and affection in their interactions. B. Discontentment. Sue Bayliss is portrayed as discontent and dissatisfied with her life as a doctor's wife. She harbors a sense of resentment towards her husband's profession, feeling that Jim prioritizes his work and patients over her and their family. C. Conflicting values. There are significant differences in the values and aspirations of Jim and Sue. While Jim is content with his medical practice and the life they have, Sue yearns for a more affluent and socially prestigious lifestyle. D. Materialistic tendencies. Sue's desire for material wealth and social standing often clashes with Jim's more modest approach to life. This materialistic outlook adds to the tensions in their relationship. E. Ambivalence towards children. Sue and Jim have a son, but their attitudes towards parenting and their son's well-being appear somewhat ambivalent. Their focus on their own discontent and marital issues sometimes takes precedence over their responsibilities as parents. F. Expression of displeasure. Sue is not hesitant to express her dissatisfaction with their life and her feelings towards Jim. She often voices her opinions openly, leading to arguments and further distancing between the couple. It's important to note that Jim and Sue's relationship serves as a contrast to the central relationship of the play between Joe and Kate Keller. While the Kellers are engulfed in the consequences of their actions and their family's dark secrets, Jim and Sue's marital struggles represent a different aspect of the human condition, the challenges of maintaining a fulfilling relationship amid societal expectations and personal desires. Overall, the relationship between Dr. Jim Bayliss and Sue Bayliss adds depth to the play's exploration of human relationships and the complexities of family dynamics. Their story serves as a subplot, providing further insight into the themes of disillusionment, unfulfilled aspirations, and the compromises people make in their pursuit of happiness. 6. How does Joe Keller behave with children? In All My Sons, Joe Keller, the patriarch of the Keller family, is depicted as a warm and friendly individual when interacting with children. He generally appears affable and approachable, fostering a jovial and fatherly demeanor when engaging with young people. Several key aspects of Joe's behavior with children are evident throughout the play. A. Playful and joking. Joe often adopts a playful and joking manner when around children. He lightens the atmosphere and engages in light-hearted banter, making the children feel comfortable in his presence. B. Generous. Joe is shown to be generous and caring towards children, particularly his own son, Chris, and their friends. He provides opportunities and treats for the children, ensuring they have a good time when they visit the Keller home. C. Storytelling. Joe enjoys telling stories to children, captivating them with tales of his past experiences and adventures. His storytelling adds to his likability and strengthens his bond with the younger members of the community. D. Protective. Joe exhibits a protective nature towards children, especially his son Chris. He wants to shield them from the harsh realities of life and protect them from the negative aspects of the world. E. Fatherly guidance. Joe acts as a mentor and father figure to Chris and the neighborhood children. He offers guidance and advice, using his life experiences to impart valuable lessons to the younger generation. F. Supportive. Joe supports the dreams and aspirations of the children, encouraging them to pursue their goals and ambitions. He is particularly supportive of Chris's desire to marry and start a new life. It is important to note that while Joe Keller displays these positive traits when interacting with children, his character is complex and morally ambiguous. Beneath his friendly exterior, Joe is burdened with guilt and the consequences of his past actions, as he was involved in the sale of faulty airplane parts that led to the death of American pilots during the war. As the play unfolds, Joe's behavior with children becomes intertwined with the deeper themes of responsibility, accountability, and the repercussions of his choices. His relationships with the younger characters, especially Chris, play a significant role in the unfolding of the story's central conflicts. 7. Do you think Anne is also waiting for Larry like Kate Miller? Based on the information provided in Act 1 of All My Sons, it is not explicitly stated that Anne is waiting for Larry like Kate Keller. However, there are certain hints and implications that suggest Anne may have some unresolved feelings or hopes regarding Larry's fate. Anne Deaver, Larry's former girlfriend, returns to the Keller home after the war, and it becomes evident that she still has a connection to the family. Her presence stirs emotions and tensions within the household, particularly between Chris and Kate. Chris and Anne's developing romance also indicates that Anne has moved on from her past relationship with Larry to some extent. However, it is possible that Anne still harbors some feelings for Larry deep down, even though she is romantically involved with Chris. Her return to the Keller home and her continued involvement with the family may suggest that she has not completely let go of her past with Larry. Moreover, Anne's relationship with the Keller family is complicated by the fact that her father, Steve Deaver, is in prison for taking the blame for the faulty airplane parts incident. This incident directly involves Larry's father, Joe Keller, which further adds to the emotional complexity surrounding Anne's presence. While Anne's specific feelings about Larry are not explicitly spelled out in Act 1, her return and interactions with the Kellers indicate that she is tied to the family's past and has unresolved connections to both Larry and the Deaver incident. As the play progresses, deeper insights into Anne's emotions and her true feelings towards Larry may be revealed, contributing to the unfolding drama and themes in All My Sons. Act 2. Summary. In Act 2 of All My Sons by Arthur Miller, the tension and conflicts intensify as the play delves deeper into the secrets and moral dilemmas surrounding the Keller family and the Deaver incident. The act begins with Chris and Anne preparing to inform Kate about their plans to marry. Chris is determined to move forward with their relationship, but he is apprehensive about Kate's reaction due to her unwavering hope that Larry will return. Meanwhile, George Deaver, Anne's brother, arrives to confront the Kellers about their role in their father Steve's imprisonment. As Act 2 progresses, the following key events and developments take place. Chris and Anne's announcement. Chris and Anne share their intention to marry with Kate and Joe. Kate's emotional turmoil is evident as she struggles to accept the idea, still clinging to the hope that Larry is alive. However, she cannot bear the thought of Chris marrying Larry's former girlfriend, which leads to heightened tension within the family. George Deaver's visit. George arrives at the Keller home, and his anger and bitterness towards Joe are palpable. He believes that Joe knowingly allowed Steve to take the blame for the defective airplane parts, leading to Steve's imprisonment. George confronts Joe about his role in the incident, determined to seek justice for his father. Kate's guilt and denial. George's accusations trigger a breakdown in Kate's denial. She becomes increasingly distressed and guilt-ridden, realizing that Joe's involvement in the scandal led to the loss of innocent lives. Kate's emotional turmoil becomes a central focus of Act 2, as she struggles to confront the truth about her husband's actions. Joe's defense. Joe continues to maintain his innocence regarding the defective parts incident, denying any knowledge of the faulty shipment. He attempts to justify his actions by claiming that he did it for the sake of his family's well-being. Chris's anguish. Chris is torn between his love for Anne and his loyalty to his family. He confronts his father, demanding that Joe accept responsibility for his actions and the consequences they have had on others. Chris's anguish over his father's moral ambiguity and the tarnished legacy of the Keller family becomes increasingly evident. The act concludes with the revelation that Larry's memorial tree has been cut down, symbolizing the family's deteriorating hopes and the harsh reality that Larry will not return. The unresolved conflicts, shattered illusions, and mounting guilt leave the characters at a breaking point, setting the stage for the climactic events that will unfold in Act III. 8. How does the playwright shift time and setting for Act II from Act I? In Act II of All My Sons, by Arthur Miller, the playwright shifts time and setting to reflect the passage of time and the introduction of new characters. The shift is subtle but significant, allowing the play to explore the aftermath of the events in Act I and introduce new conflicts and tensions. Time shift. In Act I, the play takes place on a specific day when Larry Keller's memorial is being observed. The family is gathered to mark the day he is officially declared dead, and tensions are already simmering beneath the surface due to the unresolved grief and secrets surrounding Larry's disappearance. In Act II, some time has passed since the events of Act I. The exact duration is not explicitly mentioned, but it is clear that several months or even years have gone by. This passage of time is evident through the changes in the characters' attitudes and the progression of certain events. For example, Chris and Anne's relationship has developed, indicating that a significant amount of time has elapsed since her return to the Keller home. Setting shift. Act I takes place entirely in the Keller family home and its immediate surroundings, primarily in the backyard and the living room. The setting is confined to the intimate space of the Keller residence, emphasizing the family's personal struggles and dynamics. In Act II, the setting expands beyond the Keller home. George Deaver's arrival introduces a new location and perspective to the play. George's presence shifts the action to the front yard of the Keller home, as he confronts the family about their involvement in the Deaver incident. The introduction of George as a new character also expands the setting beyond the Keller home, as he brings with him the outside world's judgment and the consequences of the past actions. His presence and the revelations he brings serve to escalate the conflicts and intensify the drama. Overall, the time and setting shifts in Act II allow the playwright to explore the repercussions of the events in Act I, and introduce new conflicts that will drive the plot towards its climax. The passage of time and the introduction of external elements through George's arrival deepen the complexity of the story, providing a broader view of the characters' dilemmas and the consequences of their actions. 9. Why is Kate, mother, displeased with Chris at the beginning of Act II? In Act II of All My Sons, Kate Keller, the mother of the family, is displeased with Chris Keller, her surviving son, because he plans to marry Anne Deaver, Larry's former girlfriend. Kate's discontent stems from her unwavering hope that Larry, who went missing during World War II, is still alive and will one day return. Kate's emotional turmoil is deeply connected to her denial of Larry's death. She clings to the belief that Larry is still alive, despite the official declaration of his death on the day of his memorial. Kate interprets certain signs, like the fallen apple tree in their yard, as indications that Larry is not truly gone and that he will eventually come back. Chris's decision to marry Anne becomes a source of conflict for Kate because it shatters the illusion that Larry might return. Kate views Anne as Larry's girl and cannot bear the thought of her being with Chris. She sees Chris and Anne's relationship as a betrayal to Larry's memory and a tacit acceptance of his death, which she is unwilling to acknowledge. Kate's displeasure with Chris is further intensified by her strong sense of motherly love and loyalty to Larry. She has been steadfast in her hope and denial, and Chris's plans to marry and challenge her deeply held beliefs and emotions. Kate's emotions are in turmoil, torn between her love for Chris and her desperate longing for Larry's return. Moreover, Kate's displeasure with Chris is connected to her emotional fragility and the weight of her unresolved grief. She is grappling with her guilt over the Deaver incident, where her husband, Joe Keller, was involved in the sale of defective airplane parts that caused the deaths of American pilots. Chris's desire to marry Anne brings to the surface the buried guilt and secrets surrounding the incident, adding to the emotional complexity of Kate's reaction. Throughout Act II, Kate's emotional turmoil and her struggle to come to terms with the truth about Larry and the past drive the play's central conflicts. Her displeasure with Chris's decision to marry Anne serves as a significant aspect of her character portrayal, and adds depth to the exploration of family dynamics and the consequences of past actions in the play. 10. What does Sue complain about Chris with Anne? In Act 2 of All My Sons by Arthur Miller, Sue Bayliss, the wife of Dr. Jim Bayliss, voices her complaints about Chris Keller to Endeavor during a conversation in the Keller backyard. Sue's grievances revolve around Chris's idealism and his plans to marry Anne, which she views as impractical and a reflection of his naive worldview. The key complaints that Sue makes about Chris to Anne are: A. Lack of practicality. Sue criticizes Chris for being overly idealistic and lacking practicality. She believes that Chris's idealism blinds him to the harsh realities of life, particularly when it comes to financial matters and the responsibilities of adulthood. B. The decision to marry Anne. Sue expresses disapproval of Chris's decision to marry Anne, Larry's former girlfriend. She considers it an unwise and emotionally driven choice, especially given the circumstances of Larry's disappearance. Sue likely feels that Chris is being impulsive and not considering the potential consequences of his actions. C. Financial concerns. Sue mentions concerns about Chris's financial situation and his ability to support a family. As a doctor's wife, she is accustomed to a certain lifestyle and may worry that Chris's more modest financial status will not meet her expectations. D. Idealistic views on money. Sue highlights Chris's idealistic views on money, suggesting that he may not fully understand the practical implications of their future together. This complaint ties into her belief that Chris is not grounded in reality when it comes to financial matters. It's important to note that Sue's complaints about Chris are likely influenced by her own discontentment with her life, and her marriage to Dr. Jim Bayliss. She may project her own frustrations onto Chris and his decisions, seeing his idealism as a reflection of what she perceives as a lack of responsibility. Sue's grievances add to the complexity of the play's exploration of relationships and the clash between practicality and idealism. Her conversations with Anne shed light on the different perspectives and motivations of the characters, contributing to the overall themes and dynamics of All My Sons. 11. What, according to Sue, does the public think about Joe Keller's guilt? According to Sue Bayliss in All My Sons, the public believes that Joe Keller is guilty of the crime he was accused of during the war. Sue mentions that the general perception outside of the Keller family is that Joe knowingly shipped out defective airplane parts, which resulted in the deaths of 21 pilots. Sue's conversation with Endeavor in Act 2 reveals that the public opinion is heavily against Joe Keller. The scandal surrounding the defective parts incident has become a topic of interest and scrutiny in the community, and many people believe that Joe should have been held accountable for his actions. It's important to note that Sue's husband, Dr. Jim Bayliss, also mentions that people talk about the Kellers behind their backs, indicating that the public's opinion about Joe's guilt is not limited to a few individuals. The widespread belief in Joe's guilt reflects the seriousness of the incident and its impact on the community, as well as the public's judgment of Joe's actions. The public's perception of Joe Keller's guilt adds to the tension and conflict within the play, as it highlights the consequences of his past actions and the lasting effects on the lives of others. The playwright, Arthur Miller, uses this public opinion to underscore the moral dilemma at the heart of the story, and the weight of Joe's responsibility for the tragedy that unfolded as a result of the defective parts. Act 3. Summary. In Act 3 of All My Sons by Arthur Miller, the play reaches its dramatic and emotional climax as the deep-seated secrets, guilt, and moral dilemmas of the Keller family are exposed. The act opens with Kate Keller's emotional turmoil reaching a breaking point. She is unable to bear the truth about her husband Joe's involvement in the defective airplane parts incident any longer. Confronted with the evidence and her own intuition, she finally acknowledges that Joe is guilty of knowingly shipping out the faulty parts that caused the deaths of 21 pilots. As Kate's world shatters, Chris Keller confronts his father about the truth. Chris is devastated and enraged by his father's actions, feeling betrayed and disillusioned. He demands that Joe admit his guilt and take responsibility for the lives lost due to his decision. Meanwhile, Endeavor is caught in the midst of the unfolding family drama. She is torn between her loyalty to her brother George, who is seeking justice for their father's imprisonment, and her love for Chris, and becomes a witness to the unraveling of the Keller family's secrets and is forced to confront the complicated dynamics between the Kellers and the Devers. George Dever arrives at the Keller home, determined to confront Joe about his role in the defective parts incident. George is still resentful and angry over the fact that his father took the blame for Joe's actions, leading to his imprisonment. In a tense and explosive confrontation, George exposes Joe's guilt, revealing to the entire family and the audience the truth about the incident. Joe is left with no choice but to accept responsibility for his actions, realizing the magnitude of the consequences. Amidst the chaos, Kate Keller's mental state deteriorates further. The weight of the truth, combined with her guilt and denial, pushes her to the brink of a breakdown. In the final moments of Act III, Joe Keller is left shattered and guilt-ridden. He is unable to live with the burden of his actions and the pain he has caused. The play ends tragically with Joe taking his own life, leaving the Keller family devastated and forever changed by the revelations. Act III serves as a powerful exploration of the consequences of moral ambiguity, the destructiveness of denial, and the weight of responsibility. The secrets of the past come to light, leaving the characters to grapple with the impact of their actions and the toll it takes on their relationships and sense of self. The play concludes with a haunting reminder that the consequences of past choices can never truly be escaped. 12. Why does Kate, mother, not respond to Dr. Jim Bayliss in the opening of Act III? In the opening of Act III of All My Sons, Kate Keller, the mother of the family, does not respond to Dr. Jim Bayliss because she is in a state of emotional distress and shock. The events leading up to Act III, particularly the revelations in Act II about Joe Keller's guilt in the defective airplane parts incident, have deeply affected her. In Act II, Kate's denial about Joe's involvement in the incident crumbled, and she finally acknowledged the truth about her husband's actions. The weight of this realization, combined with the guilt she feels over the tragic consequences of the faulty parts, has left her emotionally overwhelmed. When Act III begins, Kate's mental state is fragile, and she is likely struggling to process the revelations and their implications fully. The emotional turmoil has left her unable to respond to Dr. Jim Bayliss, who attempts to speak with her. Furthermore, Kate's emotional distress is compounded by her realization that her unwavering hope in Larry's return has been shattered. With the truth about Joe's guilt exposed, any lingering hope of Larry being alive has dissipated, adding to her sense of loss and despair. The opening of Act III sets the stage for the emotional climax of the play. Kate's silence at the beginning of the act reflects the magnitude of the situation and the toll it has taken on her. It also foreshadows the intense emotions and confrontations that will unfold as the family grapples with the truth and its consequences in the subsequent scenes. 13. What is the subject of argument between Joe Keller and Kate? In Act III of All My Sons, the subject of argument between Joe Keller and Kate Keller is their son Larry and his disappearance. The argument revolves around the truth about Larry's fate and whether he is alive or dead. Throughout the play, Kate has steadfastly clung to the belief that Larry is still alive. She interprets certain signs, like the fallen apple tree in their yard, as indications that Larry is not truly gone and that he will eventually come back. Kate's denial of Larry's death is a significant source of tension within the family, especially as her other son, Chris Keller, plans to marry Larry's former girlfriend, Andiva. In Act III, the truth about Joe's involvement in the defective airplane parts incident has been exposed, and he has admitted his guilt. This revelation has shattered Kate's illusions and forced her to confront the painful reality of Larry's death. Her emotional turmoil reaches a breaking point, and she is unable to continue denying the truth. During the argument, Kate confronts Joe about their responsibility in Larry's death. She accuses Joe of destroying their family and causing the death of their son due to his actions. Kate is devastated by the realization that her denial has caused her to live in a false reality for so long, and she expresses her anger and grief towards Joe for his role in the tragedy. The argument between Joe and Kate is a pivotal moment in the play, as it exposes the deep-seated secrets, guilt, and moral dilemmas that have haunted the Keller family. It reflects the consequences of denial and the devastating impact that the truth can have on relationships and individuals. The argument also serves as a cathartic moment for Kate, as she finally faces the painful truth about Larry's fate and the extent of Joe's involvement in the events that have torn their family apart. 14. How doesn't reveal the mystery about Larry? In Act III of All My Sons, Andiva reveals the mystery about Larry's disappearance through a series of letters. The letters are written by Larry to Anne before he went missing during World War II. The revelation occurs during a pivotal moment, when the family is grappling with the truth about Joe Keller's involvement in the defective airplane parts incident. As tensions escalate and the truth about Joe's guilt is exposed, Anne arrives at the Keller home with a bundle of Larry's letters. She has kept these letters hidden for years, as Larry had asked her not to read them until a specific date, the day when his memorial tree was blown down. Larry had left instructions for Anne, indicating that the letters were to be opened and read if the tree ever fell. When Anne arrives with the letters, the family is in turmoil and emotions are running high. Chris Keller, Larry's brother, is particularly devastated by the recent revelations, and he is struggling to come to terms with the truth about his father's actions. The letters from Larry become a critical piece of evidence that sheds light on the mystery of his disappearance. Anne decides to read the letters aloud to the family. Through Larry's words, the truth is finally revealed. In the letters, Larry expresses his deep love for Anne, but also reveals his disillusionment and despair over the deception and corruption that led to the deaths of innocent pilots due to the defective parts. Larry's letters confirm that he knew about his father's actions and could not bear the guilt and shame associated with the incident. He saw the tragic consequences of his father's choices and could not reconcile the idea of living a life tainted by deception and betrayal. The revelation of Larry's letters marks a turning point in the play, as it exposes the full extent of the family's guilt and the devastating impact of their actions on Larry and the other victims of the incident. The letters serve as a final indictment of the moral ambiguity that plagued the Keller family and the high price they paid for their actions. 15. Why and how does Keller confess his guilt? In Act III of All My Sons, Joe Keller finally confesses his guilt regarding the defective airplane parts incident. The confession occurs during a highly emotional and intense confrontation with his family, particularly his son Chris Keller and his wife, Kate Keller. The circumstances leading to Joe's confession are as follows. A. Larry's letters, and Diva, Larry's former girlfriend, brings a bundle of letters that Larry wrote before his disappearance. The letters reveal Larry's deep disillusionment and despair over the deceptive practices that led to the deaths of the pilots due to the defective parts. Larry's letters indirectly implicate his father, Joe, in the tragic events. B. Chris's anguish. Chris Keller, Joe's son, is devastated and enraged by the revelations about his father's actions. He confronts Joe and demands that he confess the truth about his involvement in the incident. Chris's emotional turmoil and anger become a driving force in pushing Joe towards admitting his guilt. C. Kate's breakdown. Kate Keller, Joe's wife, is also in a state of emotional turmoil. The weight of the truth about Joe's guilt, combined with her shattered illusions about Larry's fate, pushes her to the brink of a breakdown. Her emotional distress adds to the pressure on Joe to come clean. D. Confrontation with George Diva. George Diva, Anne's brother, arrives at the Keller home and confronts Joe about his role in the incident. George is relentless in seeking justice for his father, Steve Diva, who took the blame for Joe's actions and was imprisoned as a result. George's presence further exposes Joe's guilt. Amidst the emotional chaos, Joe Keller reaches a breaking point. He can no longer bear the weight of his lies and the pain his actions have caused to his family and others. Under the pressure of Chris's demand for the truth and the evidence presented through Larry's letters, Joe finally admits his guilt. The moment of confession becomes a cathartic and tragic turning point in the play. Joe acknowledges that he knowingly shipped out the defective parts, which led to the deaths of the pilots. His confession is a pivotal moment of reckoning, where he must face the consequences of his actions and the devastating impact they had on the lives of others. Joe's confession is an essential element in the play's exploration of the consequences of moral ambiguity, and the price one must pay for their choices. It also serves as a moment of emotional release and truth that forces the characters to confront the harsh realities of their past actions. C. Long questions. 1. On what ground do you think All My Sons is a play dealing with the social problem? Give reasons for your answer. All My Sons can be considered a play that deals with social problems, due to its exploration of several significant issues that were prevalent in post-World War II American society. The play delves into the consequences of moral ambiguity, the impact of war on families and communities, the pursuit of the American dream, and the challenges of personal responsibility. Here are some reasons why All My Sons addresses social problems. A. Moral ambiguity and business ethics. The play highlights the moral ambiguity surrounding Joe Keller's decision to ship out defective airplane parts during the war. This act resulted in the deaths of American pilots. The play examines the ethical implications of prioritizing personal gain over social responsibility, and the consequences of such actions on innocent lives. B. War and its aftermath. All My Sons reflects the aftermath of World War II, illustrating how the war affected families and communities. The loss of loved ones, the emotional trauma of war, and the difficulty of moving on are themes explored throughout the play, representing the wider societal impact of war. C. Pursuit of the American Dream. The Keller family's pursuit of the American dream is depicted in the play. Joe Keller's desire to build a successful business and provide for his family reflects the ideal of achieving prosperity and success. However, the play also portrays the dark side of the American dream, as the pursuit of wealth and success leads to moral compromise and tragedy. D. Family and community dynamics. All My Sons delves into family and community relationships and the conflicts that arise when secrets and moral dilemmas come to light. The play shows how actions taken in the past can have far-reaching consequences on individuals, families, and the community as a whole. E. Responsibility and accountability. The play raises questions about personal responsibility and accountability for one's actions. It forces the characters to confront the consequences of their choices and the role they played in the tragic events that unfolded. The struggle to accept responsibility, and the desire to protect oneself and one's family highlight broader issues of accountability in society. F. Public perception and reputation. The play touches on the impact of public perception and reputation on individuals and families. The public's judgment of Joe Keller's guilt, and the effects of the defective parts incident on the Keller family's reputation illustrate how social perceptions can influence personal and family dynamics. All My Sons is not only a compelling family drama but also a social critique of the American society of its time. Through its exploration of these complex issues, the play addresses broader social problems and challenges the audience to reflect on the consequences of individual actions, and the importance of upholding ethical values in a rapidly changing world. 2. Comment on Miller's choice of vocabulary and ways of expressions. Arthur Miller's choice of vocabulary and ways of expression in his plays, including All My Sons, are notable for their depth, realism, and ability to convey powerful emotions and themes. Miller's writing style is characterized by the following aspects. A. Poetic language. Miller often employs poetic language and metaphors to enhance the emotional impact of his dialogue. His use of figurative language adds depth to the characters' emotions and the play's themes. The poetic elements in his writing make the dialogue more evocative and resonate with the audience on an emotional level. B. Realistic dialogue. Miller's dialogue is known for its realism. He captures the natural flow of conversation and creates authentic, relatable characters. The character's speech reflects the time and place of the play, grounding the narrative in a believable setting. C. Dramatic tension. Miller's writing is skillful at building dramatic tension. He uses dialogue to create conflicts and reveal hidden motivations, intensifying the emotional stakes for the characters and engaging the audience in the unfolding drama. D. Symbolism. Miller often employs symbolism to add layers of meaning to his plays. His use of symbols enriches the narrative and provides insight into the characters' inner struggles and the broader themes of the work. E. Social and political commentary. Miller's choice of vocabulary and expressions often serves as a vehicle for social and political commentary. He addresses relevant societal issues and challenges through the dialogue of his characters, making his plays thought-provoking and reflective of the era in which they were written. F. Emotional depth. Miller's writing delves into the emotional depths of his characters, allowing the audience to connect with their innermost thoughts and feelings. His choice of words and expressions evokes empathy and understanding, making the characters' dilemmas and conflicts emotionally resonant. G. Subtext. Miller's dialogue frequently contains subtext, where characters convey underlying meanings and emotions beneath their spoken words. This subtext adds complexity to the interactions between characters and enriches the play's themes. Overall, Miller's choice of vocabulary and ways of expression contribute to the enduring power and impact of his plays. His writing style captures the human condition with its complexities, flaws, and aspirations, making his works timeless and relevant beyond their original contexts. His ability to blend poetry, realism, symbolism, and social commentary creates a rich and immersive experience for the audience, making Arthur Miller one of the most influential playwrights of the 20th century. 3. What is the significance of the Second World War in the play? The Second World War holds significant importance in the play, All My Sons, by Arthur Miller, as it serves as a catalyst for the central conflicts and themes explored throughout the story. The war's impact is multifaceted and deeply intertwined with the lives of the characters, shaping their relationships, actions, and moral dilemmas. Here are some key ways in which the Second World War is significant in the play. A. Context of the play. The play is set in the aftermath of World War II, reflecting the social and emotional climate of post-war America. The war's impact on the nation and its citizens serves as a backdrop for the personal struggles and conflicts faced by the Keller family. B. Loss and grief. The war has left the Keller family with a profound sense of loss and grief. They lost their son Larry, who was a pilot in the war and is presumed dead. The shadow of Larry's absence hangs over the family, contributing to their emotional turmoil and affecting their relationships. C. The Keller business. The war has had a significant impact on Joe Keller's business. During the war, Joe's factory was involved in manufacturing airplane parts for military use. The pressure to produce these parts quickly and meet the demand of the war effort led to the shipment of defective parts, resulting in the deaths of 21 pilots. The war's context underscores the moral ambiguity and ethical dilemmas surrounding Joe's actions. D. Guilt and responsibility. The war and its consequences play a pivotal role in the theme of guilt and responsibility in the play. Joe's decision to ship out the faulty airplane parts stems from his desire to contribute to the war effort and protect his family's future. However, this act leads to tragedy and leaves him grappling with guilt and the responsibility for the deaths of the pilots. E. Impact on family dynamics. The war's aftermath has deeply impacted the Keller family dynamics. The loss of Larry has affected each family member differently, and their individual responses to grief and guilt shape their relationships with one another. F. Illusions and denial. The war's effects on the characters are also reflected in the themes of illusions and denial. Kate Keller's refusal to accept Larry's death is connected to the war, as she clings to the hope that he might still be alive, unable to face the reality of his loss. G. Moral and ethical questions. The war's context raises moral and ethical questions about the actions taken during wartime and the responsibility for the consequences. The play challenges the audience to consider the implications of individual choices in times of crisis, and the cost of prioritizing personal gain over social responsibility. Overall, the Second World War is an integral part of All My Sons, shaping the characters' experiences, motivations, and emotional struggles. It serves as a backdrop for the play's exploration of themes such as guilt, responsibility, family dynamics, and the complexities of human morality. The war's profound impact on the characters' lives makes All My Sons a poignant reflection on the aftermath of a global conflict and its lasting effects on individuals and families. 4. Discuss All My Sons as a modern tragedy. All My Sons can be considered a modern tragedy due to its exploration of universal themes, complex characters, and the consequences of moral ambiguity. While it does not adhere strictly to the classical conventions of Greek tragedy, it aligns with the characteristics of a modern tragedy, reflecting the complexities and moral dilemmas of the modern world. A. Tragic hero. Joe Keller, the patriarch of the Keller family, can be seen as a tragic hero. He is a successful businessman and a devoted family man, but his fatal flaw is his desire to protect his family at any cost, even if it means compromising his moral values. This flaw ultimately leads to his downfall as he becomes entangled in the tragic events surrounding the defective airplane parts. B. Moral ambiguity. A hallmark of modern tragedy is the exploration of moral ambiguity and the complexity of human nature. In All My Sons, Joe's actions are morally ambiguous. While he claims he did it for the sake of his family, his decision to ship out faulty parts leads to the deaths of innocent pilots. The play delves into the consequences of such moral ambiguity and the ripple effect of one's choices on others. See, family tragedy. Unlike classical tragedies centered around royalty or nobility, All My Sons portrays a family tragedy. The focus is on the Keller family and the impact of their actions on each other. The play examines the interconnectedness of family members, and how one individual's actions can have far-reaching consequences on the entire family. D. Catharsis. Modern tragedies seek to evoke catharsis, a cleansing of emotions, in the audience. As the play unfolds, the audience is drawn into the emotional turmoil of the characters, experiencing a range of emotions from empathy to sorrow. The catharsis comes from witnessing the characters' struggles, mistakes, and their ultimate realization of the truth. E. Social commentary. Modern tragedies often serve as vehicles for social commentary, critiquing the flaws and issues of the contemporary world. All My Sons addresses broader societal concerns, such as the consequences of unethical business practices, the impact of war on families, and the pursuit of the American dream at any cost. F. Hubris and nemesis. Joe Keller's hubris lies in his belief that he can protect his family and escape the consequences of his actions. His nemesis is the exposure of his guilt and the realization of the tragic consequences of his decisions. G. Tragic resolution. The play concludes tragically with Joe Keller taking his own life, unable to bear the weight of his guilt and the destruction caused by his actions. The resolution leaves the family shattered, highlighting the irreparable damage caused by the tragic events. In summary, All My Sons embodies the characteristics of a modern tragedy by exploring complex human emotions, moral dilemmas, and the consequences of actions. It presents a family tragedy that resonates with audiences through its profound examination of the human condition, and the universal themes of guilt, responsibility, and the cost of one's choices. 5. Sketch the character of Joe Keller, Kate Keller, and Diva, Chris, Jim, Sue, Frank, Lydia and Bert. All My Sons is a play by Arthur Miller that revolves around the Keller family. Joe Keller, a businessman, was involved in the shipment of defective airplane parts during World War II, leading to the deaths of pilots. His son Chris plans to marry and Diva, Larry's former girlfriend. As secrets unravel, the truth about Joe's guilt is exposed, causing emotional turmoil and tragic consequences. The play explores themes of guilt, responsibility, and the consequences of moral ambiguity, ultimately culminating in a devastating revelation and the shattering of the Keller family. Joe Keller is the patriarch of the Keller family and a successful businessman. He is portrayed as a hardworking and practical man who prioritizes the well-being of his family above all else. Joe is deeply protective of his reputation and is willing to make morally compromising decisions to safeguard his family's future. He struggles with guilt and denial over his involvement in the shipment of faulty airplane parts during the war, which resulted in the deaths of 21 pilots. Joe is torn between his desire to protect his family and his responsibility for the tragic consequences of his actions. Kate Keller is the wife of Joe Keller and the mother of Larry and Chris. She is a strong-willed and devoted mother who clings to the hope that her missing son Larry is still alive. Kate's denial about Larry's death becomes a central conflict in the play, as it prevents her from fully accepting the truth about Joe's actions. She is deeply affected by the revelations about Joe's guilt and struggles with the weight of her own complicity in the tragic events. And Diva is Larry's former girlfriend and the daughter of Steve Diva, Joe's former business partner. She is depicted as kind, caring, and compassionate, with a strong sense of loyalty to her family. Anne's return to the Keller home rekindles her romantic relationship with Chris, leading to tension and conflict with Kate. She becomes a catalyst for the revelation of the truth about the defective airplane parts and Joe's guilt. Chris Keller is the surviving son of Joe and Kate, and he is a war veteran. He is portrayed as an idealistic and compassionate man who struggles to reconcile the post-war world's harsh realities with his personal values. Chris is deeply in love with Anne and desires to build a life with her, despite the objections from Kate. He becomes increasingly torn between his loyalty to his family and his desire to confront the truth about his father's actions. Dr. Jim Bayliss is a friend and neighbor of the Kellers. He is a physician but feels unfulfilled in his career, secretly desiring to pursue his passion for medical research. Jim's marriage to Sue becomes strained due to his lack of ambition and dissatisfaction with his professional life. Sue Bayliss is Jim Bayliss's wife and a close friend of the Kellers. She is depicted as materialistic and discontented, often complaining about her husband's lack of ambition. Sue is critical of Chris's idealism and his plans to marry Anne, viewing them as impractical. Frank Luby is a neighbor of the Kellers and a former friend of Larry. He is a simple-minded and somewhat superstitious man who works as a horoscope reader. Frank's decision to enlist Larry in the Air Force becomes a source of guilt and regret for him. Lydia Luby is Frank's wife and a neighbor of the Kellers. She is depicted as somewhat naive and easily influenced by others' opinions. Lydia is married to Frank despite having had a relationship with George Deaver in the past, adding tension to their marriage. Bert is the young son of the neighbor, often seen playing around the Kellers' yard. His innocence and playful nature serve as a stark contrast to the darker themes and conflicts of the play. These character sketches provide a glimpse into the complexities and dynamics of the characters in All My Sons. Each character's traits and actions contribute to the unfolding drama and exploration of moral dilemmas in the play. 6. How does Miller individualize the characters of the play? Arthur Miller individualizes the characters in All My Sons by giving each of them distinct personalities, motivations, and emotional complexities. Here are some ways in which Miller achieves this individualization. A. Unique personalities. Each character in the play has a unique personality that sets them apart from others. For example, Joe Keller is portrayed as a practical and hardworking businessman, while Chris Keller is depicted as idealistic and compassionate. Kate Keller is a strong-willed and devoted mother, and Ann Deaver is caring and loyal. B. Backstories and histories. Miller provides each character with a backstory and personal history that shapes their present behavior and beliefs. For instance, the audience learns about Joe's experiences during the war, Chris's time as a soldier, and Kate's unwavering hope for her missing son Larry. C. Motivations and goals. The characters have their individual motivations and goals, which influence their decisions and actions throughout the play. For instance, Joe's motivation is to protect his family, while Chris's goal is to marry Anne and create a meaningful life. D. Conflicts and relationships. The characters' conflicts and relationships with each other are integral to their individualization. The complex dynamics between Joe and Kate, Chris and Anne, and the interactions with the other neighbors create unique character interactions. E. Language and dialogue. Miller uses distinctive language and dialogue for each character, reflecting their education, background, and personalities. The characters' speech patterns and choice of words reveal insights into their emotional states and inner conflicts. F. Reactions to events. Each character responds differently to the events and revelations that occur throughout the play. Their reactions are influenced by their individual personalities, histories, and motivations, allowing the audience to see their individuality unfold in moments of crisis. G. Symbolism and imagery. Miller uses symbols and imagery that resonate with each character's traits and emotions. For instance, the fallen apple tree is symbolic of the family's hope and loss, while Larry's tree represents his presence and absence. By individualizing the characters, Miller creates a rich and nuanced tapestry of human experiences, making them relatable and memorable to the audience. Their unique qualities and complexities add depth to the exploration of themes and conflicts in the play, contributing to its enduring impact and relevance. 7. Comment on the concept of realism and idealism in the play. The concept of realism and idealism in All My Sons is central to the conflicts and themes explored by Arthur Miller. The play juxtaposes these two contrasting worldviews through the characters of Chris Keller, who embodies idealism, and Joe Keller, who represents realism. These differing perspectives on life and morality drive the narrative and add depth to the exploration of the human condition. Realism. Joe Keller is portrayed as a pragmatic and practical man. He prioritizes the well-being of his family and his business, often making decisions based on what he believes will protect them. Joe's sense of realism is evident in his willingness to make morally compromising choices, such as shipping out defective airplane parts during the war, in order to save his business and secure his family's future. He believes in the survival of the fittest mentality, where success and security come from being practical and looking out for one's own interests. Joe's realism is also seen in his denial of responsibility for the tragic consequences of his actions. He tries to rationalize his decisions and deflect blame onto others. Idealism. Chris Keller, on the other hand, embodies idealism. He is deeply compassionate and believes in the inherent goodness of people and the world. Chris is driven by a sense of duty to do what is morally right, even if it means confronting uncomfortable truths or making personal sacrifices. He is appalled by the idea of profiting from the tragedy of others and wants to live a life guided by ethical principles. Chris's idealism is also evident in his love for Endeavor. Despite the disapproval and objections from his family, he is determined to marry her out of love and a belief in a meaningful future. Throughout the play, the clash between realism and idealism leads to conflict and tension within the Keller family and the larger community. Chris's idealism is in direct opposition to Joe's pragmatic approach, and this ideological divide is at the heart of the play's central conflict. The play raises thought-provoking questions about the balance between idealism and realism. It challenges the audience to consider the consequences of compromising one's moral values for practical gains, as well as the potential naivety of unwavering idealism. At the same time, it explores the moral complexities of living in a world where idealism and realism must coexist. In conclusion, All My Sons explores the interplay between realism and idealism through its characters' beliefs, actions, and conflicts. It serves as a poignant reminder of the challenges of navigating ethics and personal convictions in a world where competing worldviews often collide. The tension between realism and idealism adds depth and complexity to the play's exploration of guilt, responsibility, and the cost of one's choices. 8. Why do you think the dramatist shows a broken tree in the setting of the play? The broken tree in the setting of the play, All My Sons, serves as a powerful symbol that carries multiple layers of meaning and contributes to the play's themes and emotional impact. The broken tree represents the following. 1. Loss and absence. The tree symbolizes the absence of Larry, the Keller's younger son who went missing during World War II. Larry's disappearance and presumed death have left a void in the Keller family, and the broken tree serves as a constant reminder of his absence. 2. Grief and denial. Kate Keller, Larry's mother, clings to the hope that her son is still alive and will return someday. The broken tree is a focal point of her denial and refusal to accept Larry's death. She interprets the tree falling as a sign of his presence and clings to this belief to cope with her grief. 3. Moral guilt and responsibility. The tree's fall is a direct result of the defective airplane parts that Joe Keller shipped out during the war. The incident led to the deaths of 21 pilots, and the broken tree symbolizes the tragic consequences of Joe's actions. The tree falling represents the weight of guilt and the moral responsibility that Joe and the Keller family must face. 4. Shattered illusions. The broken tree also reflects shattered illusions and the harsh reality that the Keller family cannot continue living in denial. As the truth about Joe's guilt and Larry's death comes to light, the broken tree becomes a metaphor for the destruction of their illusions and the need to confront the truth. 5. Nature's indifference. The falling of the tree can also be seen as nature's indifference to human suffering. Just as nature takes its course with the tree falling, the play highlights the idea that the universe operates beyond human control, and individuals must confront the consequences of their actions. Overall, the broken tree in the setting of the play serves as a potent symbol of loss, grief, denial, guilt, shattered illusions, and the natural consequences of actions. It underscores the themes of responsibility, the consequences of moral ambiguity, and the need for truth and reconciliation. The tree's presence on the stage serves as a constant reminder of the play's central conflicts, and adds to the play's emotional depth and impact on the audience. 9. Why is not Kate able to deal with her son's death? Kate Keller's inability to deal with her son Larry's death is rooted in her profound grief, denial, and a desperate need to hold on to hope. Several factors contribute to her inability to accept the reality of Larry's death. A. Unresolved grief. Kate's grief over Larry's disappearance is deep and unresolved. She clings to the belief that he is still alive despite all evidence pointing to the contrary. her inability to mourn his loss and move on prevents her from coming to terms with the truth. B. Mother's instinct. As a mother, Kate's instinct is to protect her children and keep them safe. Accepting Larry's death would mean acknowledging that she was unable to protect him from harm during the war, which is emotionally devastating for her. C. Hope and denial. Kate's refusal to accept Larry's death is fueled by hope and denial. She desperately clings to the hope that Larry is alive and will return home one day. This denial shields her from the painful truth and allows her to continue living in a world where her son is still alive. D. Guilt and blame. Kate's guilt over Larry's death also contributes to her denial. She feels responsible for him, and accepting his death would mean accepting her own culpability in some way. E. Identity and purpose. Kate's entire identity and purpose as a mother are tied to her love for her children. Accepting Larry's death threatens to undermine her role as a devoted and protective mother, making it difficult for her to let go of the hope that he is alive. F. Family dynamic. Kate's denial is reinforced by the family dynamic, as both Joe Keller and Chris Keller also struggle to accept Larry's death. This collective denial perpetuates the illusion that Larry is still alive and contributes to Kate's inability to deal with his death. Throughout the play, Kate's denial and inability to confront the truth create tension and conflict within the family. As the events of the play unfold and the truth about Larry's death is revealed, Kate's emotional turmoil reaches a breaking point, leading to a climactic confrontation with Joe and Chris. Kate's struggle to deal with her son's death serves as a poignant portrayal of a mother's grief, and the complexity of human emotions when faced with loss and tragedy. It also underscores the devastating impact of denial and the profound effects of war on families and individuals. 10. Why does Joe Keller commit suicide? Is his suicide justifiable in the play? Give reasons. In All My Sons, Joe Keller commits suicide as a final act of reckoning and atonement for his actions and the devastating consequences they have caused. His suicide is a culmination of the guilt, remorse, and emotional turmoil that have been building throughout the play. Reasons for Joe Keller's suicide. A. Guilt and responsibility. Joe's guilt over the shipment of defective airplane parts during the war weighs heavily on him. The knowledge that his actions led to the deaths of 21 pilots, including his own son Larry's co-pilot, is an unbearable burden for him to carry. B. Shattered illusions. As the truth about his role in the tragedy and Larry's death comes to light, Joe's illusions about his own innocence and the perceived necessity of his actions are shattered. He can no longer escape the reality of the lives lost due to his greed and dishonesty. C. Confrontation with Chris. The confrontation with his son Chris, who demands the truth and calls for accountability, further intensifies Joe's emotional distress. Chris's rejection of his father's actions and his disappointment in Joe's lack of remorse become unbearable for Joe to face. D. Isolation and loss of family. Joe's actions have fractured the Keller family, leading to strained relationships and emotional distance. He feels isolated and believes that he has lost the love and trust of his family, further adding to his desperation. E. Public judgment. The public judgment and condemnation over his actions also play a role in Joe's mental anguish. The revelation of his guilt becomes a matter of public knowledge, tarnishing his reputation and adding to his shame. Justifiability of Joe Keller's suicide. The play does not explicitly present Joe Keller's suicide as justified or unjustified. Instead, it leaves the audience to ponder the complexities of his actions and the consequences he faces. From a moral perspective, some may argue that taking one's own life as an act of atonement is not justified, as it does not absolve one of the harm caused to others. Suicide is a tragic response to personal guilt and inner turmoil, and it leaves behind a trail of pain and loss for the surviving family and friends. On the other hand, some may argue that Joe's suicide is a form of self-punishment and acknowledgement of his responsibility for the deaths of the pilots. His decision to end his life may be seen as a desperate attempt to take responsibility for his actions, even though it comes too late to reverse the tragedy. Ultimately, the play leaves the moral judgment of Joe Keller's suicide open to interpretation. It serves as a poignant reflection on the consequences of moral ambiguity and the complexity of human emotions and actions. The play invites the audience to grapple with the moral implications of Joe's choices, and to contemplate the devastating effects of one's actions on oneself and others. 11. Comment on the unity of place, time and action of the play. The play, All My Sons, by Arthur Miller adheres to the classical principles of unity of place, time, and action, which are often associated with Aristotle's Poetics and the conventions of classical Greek drama. Miller's adherence to these principles enhances the play's focus, intensity, and dramatic impact. The unity of place refers to confining the action of the play to a single location. In All My Sons, the entire play takes place in the backyard of the Keller family home. The play does not shift to different locations, ensuring that the audience's attention remains fixed on the central events and conflicts that unfold within this confined space. This unity of place allows for a deeper exploration of the characters' interactions and emotions, as they are contained within the intimate setting of the backyard. The unity of time dictates that the events of the play should unfold within a single day or a relatively short time frame. In All My Sons, the play's events occur over a period of just 24 hours. The narrative unfolds in real time, intensifying the dramatic tension, and creating a sense of urgency as the characters grapple with the revelation of the truth about Joe Keller's guilt, and the consequences of his actions. The compressed time frame adds to the play's emotional intensity and serves to heighten the impact of the climactic revelations. The unity of action requires that the play's plot revolves around a single central conflict or theme. In All My Sons, the play centers on the consequences of Joe Keller's decision to ship out defective airplane parts during the war, leading to the deaths of 21 pilots. The revelation of Joe's guilt and the impact of his actions on the Keller family form the core of the play's narrative. Every scene and character interaction contribute to the exploration of this central conflict, making the plot cohesive and focused. By adhering to the classical principles of unity of place, time, and action, Miller creates a tightly structured and emotionally charged play. The confined setting, compressed time frame, and singular focus on a central conflict allow for a profound exploration of moral dilemmas, family dynamics, and the consequences of one's choices. The unity of these elements enhances the play's dramatic impact and makes All My Sons a compelling and enduring work of modern drama. 12. What is the motivation behind Joe Keller's supply of defective machine parts? Do you think the writer gives satire against the concept of the American dream? Joe Keller's motivation behind supplying defective machine parts during the war is primarily driven by a desire to protect his business and secure financial success for his family. During the war, there was a high demand for airplane parts, and Joe's factory was under pressure to meet the production targets set by the military. However, when some of the parts were found to be faulty, Joe chose to ship them out anyway to fulfill the order, knowing that they could lead to potential accidents. The writer, Arthur Miller, does not explicitly use satire against the concept of the American dream in All My Sons. Instead, the play can be seen as a critique of the dark side of the American dream, the pursuit of success and wealth at any cost, even if it means compromising one's moral values and social responsibility. The American dream is often associated with the belief that hard work and determination can lead to prosperity, success, and a better life. In the play, Joe Keller represents a character who has worked hard to build a successful business and provide for his family. However, his actions reveal the extent to which he is willing to sacrifice ethical principles and the lives of others for personal gain. Through Joe's character and the tragic consequences of his choices, Miller exposes the potential dangers of unchecked ambition and the pursuit of material wealth. He raises questions about the true cost of the American dream and challenges the audience to consider the moral implications of such pursuits. While the play does not explicitly satirize the American dream, it serves as a cautionary tale about the importance of upholding ethical values, and the consequences of prioritizing personal gain over social responsibility. By depicting the tragic consequences of Joe's actions, Miller encourages the audience to reflect on the complexities of the American dream and its impact on individuals, families, and society as a whole. Best of luck.